Always. All right, so let me share my screen. All right, great. All right, can you see our topic today?
Yep.
Excellent. All right, so welcome to today's webinar. I'm really excited for you to be joining me today. And we're going to be diving into an overall view of understanding our hormones and starting to understand why, based off those hormones, we feel off balance, why we just don't feel right, why we're tired and moody and anxious and don't have our libido anymore, and just overall don't feel like yourselves again. But before we get started, I just have to enter in our disclaimer that this webinar is for educational purposes only. It does not provide medical advice, so please consult your trusted medical provider for any medical advice that you may need. All right, so today's webinar is the first of a series of 6 webinars, and we're going to be diving into hormonal imbalances, the root causes of those, common symptoms, and I strive to give you information that you can truly trust and rely on, and then also tips that you can take with you and literally start to use immediately after we are done. Next week, we're going to be talking about energy, I believe it is, or sleep. Ooh, I might be getting those messed up, but we've got one on sleep, one on energy. We're going to be talking about anxiety and mood. We're going to be talking about gut health. And then we're going to finish up with one focused on perimenopause. So whether you can make it to all of ours or just some of them, whatever interests you, we'd love to have you join us and hop in for these webinars. So now, I am leading this topic because I am really passionate. I love working with women that are struggling, whether it's hormones or gut. Maybe they've been dismissed by the medical profession. They're told that it's just aging or your labs look just fine, so you're healthy. Come back basically when you feel worse. I love working with women who are searching for answers, and they're maybe Googling and you're looking on social media, and it's really overwhelming to look at what's out there and try to figure out, where do I start? And I love working with these women partly because I was one of them. So my story of why I'm here today too is that I was perhaps in the same place that you might be. There was a few years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was in a place in life where I was exhausted, and not just tired exhausted, but bodily exhausted. And I had terrible brain fog. I'd be holding my phone and wondering where's my phone while I'm actually holding it. Or I couldn't remember my kids' names and I'd just like point. And it was terrible and it was very embarrassing. And I knew that I needed to do something different. And at that time, I was eating gluten-free, I was paleo, I was working out, I was even sleeping well, but yet I wasn't feeling well. And so it was hard to figure out, well, I'm doing the things I think I should do. Therefore, why am I not getting the result that I'm needing or wanting? And so I started to dive into functional medicine, and I started seeing a practitioner myself. And along my journey of working with a functional medicine provider, I started to understand the root causes of my own hormonal imbalances. And I started to figure out that my healthy lifestyle wasn't exactly healthy for me, and my age and my stage of life, and how where I was at in my phase of life needed different support than what I was giving it. And I just couldn't take enough of information. I just kept diving in and learning more. And that led me eventually down a path of launching into functional medicine myself. One second, let me let a few more people in here. All right. And now I am passionate about helping other women with what I have learned, because I firmly believe that you can feel great at any age and stage that you are in. So throughout that journey, I have created, through my experience and working with lots of women and clients that I've worked with, I created what I call my Signature Reach program. This is what I take women through as they start their functional medicine journey with me. And today in our webinar and throughout our series, we're going to be focusing mainly on the E and the A. So we're going to be talking about establishing some foundations. We're going to dive into some habits around nutrition, movement, stress, food, and we're going to start to give you tools around that foundational level. We're also going to talk about the A part, addressing the root. A mainstay of functional medicine is finding the root cause, not just working at the symptom level. It's what makes it very different than a Western medical route. And so we're going to dive in today to some root causes such as gut imbalances, liver health, nutrient deficiencies, blood sugar imbalances. And we're going to touch just a little bit on each of these. And then again, in our further webinars, we're going to keep diving deeper and deeper into those. And my goal with all of my clients and with you today is that we can learn, we can connect, we can heal, and we can thrive so you can reach the best version of you. So while we'll get started, let's talk about what hormones are and why do they matter. When we think about hormones, we know we have them, we might love them, we might hate them at times, especially certain times of the month. But our hormones are essential to us being healthy and feeling good. Hormones are chemical messengers that travel through the bloodstream, and they regulate key functions such as mood and cognition. So that brain fog, if you struggle with that, has a hormonal connection. Our energy, or lack thereof, our metabolism, or lack thereof, our sleep, our ability to rest. And when I just sit down, I can actually unplug and not feel like I'm still in this stressed state. Hormones are playing a huge role in all of these functions. And every single cell of the body interacts with your hormones. So when we're working on gut health or immune health or heart health or even joint health, all of those systems will influence and come into play with hormone health because your hormones interact with all of them. So there isn't a system in the body that doesn't impact your hormones, which is wonderful in some ways, but can make it a little bit tricky in other ways. So an analogy I like to use when kind of describing how hormones work is if we think of hormones like text messages, and the brain, the nerve system, the brain is what's sending the text messages out. So they're the sender, and the text messages are the hormones themselves. And as the brain communicates down to the body, it's going to send out all these text messages. So thyroid, let's dial up the metabolism. Heart, let's slow down. Digestion, let's speed up. Joints, let's move this way. Your brain's communicating to your body through these hormones, and these hormones are running back and forth and back and forth. But if our hormones are out of balance, that means these messages might get lost. One might not get through, and then we skip to the next one. And pretty soon you're trying to figure out what in the world is the brain telling me to do? I'm kind of lost here. And now symptoms start to pop up. So let's talk about, before we dive into symptoms, I created something a little bit fun, and I created a hormonal cast of characters to help people just understand their hormones just a little bit better. So we're going to start with our lovely estrogen. Estrogen is our creative director. So estrogen is, it often gets a bad rap from what I tend to hear. But estrogen is incredibly helpful. It gives us our drive. It helps us multitask. Your estrogen is your high achiever friend that accomplishes many, many things in a day. That's kind of estrogen making its debut and really shining. A famous character that might display some estrogen qualities might be Miranda Priestly from The Devil Wears Prada, if you've ever seen it, but maybe a nicer, kinder version. Some natural characteristics with estrogen: you're a natural leader, you're deeply invested in maintaining harmony, but sometimes you try to do a little too much, and you might get a little moody when we're overworked. And that moody might be anxiety, or it might be anger and rage, or it might be highs and it might be lows. So Estrogen doesn't like to be overworked and likes to stay right in a healthy zone. Then estrogen's, estrogen's sister, progesterone, is kind of the yin to the yang. It's kind of a little bit of the opposite. Estrogen loves to drive, progesterone loves to just calmly sit. This is your yoga instructor friend that might meet you with a calming tea and just want to sit and read a book. They're the natural peacekeepers. They love cozy, peaceful environments. They work best when everything's in balance, and they're very protective of those around them. A famous character example of progesterone might be Maya Angelou. And something progesterone might say is, oh, let's all take a deep breath. Let's get some sleep and remember everything happens in its own time. So you can see how estrogen and progesterone are a little bit of opposites. Next, we come into testosterone. Testosterone is your energetic motivator. It is your personal trainer. It's the friend that's always trying to get you to join CrossFit. It's your pusher. It's your motivator. Estrogen's your driver, but testosterone gives you the motivation for the drive that estrogen can give you. It's a natural confidence booster. It loves building things up, but it gets really frustrated with laziness. It is surprisingly sensitive despite its tough exterior, and a famous character that it might be similar to would be Leslie Knox from Park and Rec. Something testosterone might say is, come on, those muscles aren't going to build themselves. And yes, we're absolutely keeping that bone density strong. So, all right, cortisol. Cortisol takes her job very seriously. She is an intense first responder personality type. She's that slightly paranoid friend who is prepared for every single scenario that could come her way. A famous character that is similar to cortisol might be Monica Geller from Friends when she's really in one of her high stress episodes. Cortisol can be a bit of an alarmist, but means really well. But she never really relaxes. She has a really hard time just calming down. But she's very, very great in real emergencies. We need cortisol. We just don't need too much of her. And our last hormone that we're going to talk about today is our thyroid twins. There are many thyroid hormones, but the main we're going to touch on really briefly today, and then in future webinars, are our thyroid twins T3 and T4. These are the efficiency experts. They are your detail-oriented management duo. They optimize everything. Famous characters are similar to Jonathan and Drew Scott from the Property Brothers. They are obsessed with efficiency. They get pretty cranky when overworked, just like estrogen does. They are excellent multitaskers, but they can be a little bit too controlling. So thyroid twins and estrogen sometimes compete a little bit with similar characteristics. So let's look at what happens to our cast of characters in day-to-day life. So here we have some group dynamics in our hormonal timeline. And I'm going to touch on just a few of these, but hopefully this can give you an idea of when I'm going through moments in my day, here's the role that each hormone plays, because each hormone has a very important role that ideally they need to keep, and they need to keep their boundaries. So when stress hits, you've got cortisol coming in, hitting all the alarms going, this is not a drill, people, wake up, let's go. And progesterone is there going, maybe we should try some deep breathing. Let's just calm down a little bit. Well, estrogen's going, everything's fine. No, it's not. Everything's fine. And that mood is swinging wildly from high to low. The thyroid twins are adjusting the dials frantically going, we're burning through resources, guys. Let's slow it down. And they're trying to maintain efficiency. And now testosterone's coming in to the room and he's going, well, we can fight this. Let's fight this. And he rises to the occasion. He's bringing that motivation when that stress hits. And then on the good days, everyone's following cortisol's lead, and cortisol wakes us up really gently in the morning. The thyroid twins are maintaining our steady energy throughout the day. Estrogen's keeping things running beautifully. I got just enough drive that I need for my day. Progesterone's helping me stay calm, and testosterone keeps my motivation going. They're all playing their roles and they're all balancing each other out. But then on the challenging days, cortisol gets a little too excited and wakes me up at 3 a.m. because he's on the job a little too early. So estrogen and progesterone are cranky and they start miscommunicating. And now estrogen might be taking over and progesterone goes, I'm gonna go back to bed. And now we've got low progesterone. The thyroid twins now are getting a little sluggish. We woke up too early. I'm a little too tired. I can't handle this. And testosterone starting to get impatient with this lack of activity. And now we start to see that go on. So we can see how when each maintains their role, things go really well. So for hormone function, it's important that they each respect each other's roles. They each have a really important job to do, and they can't hand that job to anyone else. It is only their job. They are the best fit for it. We want to stay in balance. We want to get proper support through diet, exercise, food, maybe supplements, and we want to maintain our healthy boundaries. Regular check-ins also can be really key and really helpful. With my functional medicine clients, I often recommend that we're checking and doing labs at least once a year, once they're in that wellness phase, because hormones can really change, and they change with every phase of life that a female is in. And when we're checking on those data points and we're monitoring symptoms, we can see if patterns are starting to shift before we get to a point that you're really uncomfortable or not feeling well. So if these hormones, if our cast of characters aren't following those nice guidelines that we give them, then symptoms start to rise. But symptoms are your body's way of communicating with us. Your body's love language is communication. And your body's not broken. It's not betraying you. It's just trying to talk to you. And our job isn't to necessarily silence those symptoms, but to really decode them, to listen to them and start to address what your body's trying to tell you. So before we dive into root causes, let's first look at some common symptoms. I've got listed here just a few. I couldn't list them all because unfortunately there's too many, but a few symptoms of what high or low estrogen might look like for you, what a thyroid imbalance might look like for you, and what a testosterone imbalance might look for you. So I would love to see a show of hands, whether you raise your hand or your virtual hand on Zoom here. How many of you with me today have at least 2 of the symptoms that are listed in this list? Yeah. And you can type in the chat too, if that is more helpful for you. Bring up my chat, I can see it. How many of you have at least 4 of these symptoms? And feel free to type in the chat as well. How about 6 symptoms? All right, and how about 8? It is not uncommon that we're gonna have at least a couple, if not a whole bunch more. So I'm really glad that you're here. I thank you for sharing and being brave and stepping out there. Far too often women are coming to me with many of these symptoms. And again, they're asking, what am I doing wrong? I feel broken. But again, your body's not broken. It's just responding to a world that's really out of sync with your natural rhythms, a world full of huge stressors. And that's what we're going to dive into next. So let's go there. All right. For those on the call that might want the cliff notes of, okay, just tell me, just get to it and tell me what I need to do. This is probably the most useful slide of the entire presentation for you. This is going to give you an overall view and help you sort through the information that you might find today and out and in the realm of the World Wide Web. And I'm a big fan of working smarter and not harder, and I also love efficiency. So with this pyramid at the bottom, that is where we start. Your nerve system controls your entire body. So we're going to dive into how the nerve system's role in hormone balance and how those are interconnected and why that's the wisest place to start. From there, we're going to go up to stress response, nutrient deficiencies, and blood sugar. We then climb the ladder up to gut health, liver health, and gallbladder health. And then at the very tippy top, we've got stealth infections that create inflammation. So let's break these down one by one and get into some details. The nerve system, let's start there. The nerve system is the master controller of the body. It is your operating system. Your nerve system consists of your brain, the spinal cord that runs down your spine, and then the nerves that come out of there. And if you remember back to our hormone explanation of text messages, the brain, the nerve system, is the sender of those text messages. So for our hormones to be balanced, we need to make sure that we're sending the right text messages, that we're sending the right hormones to where they need to be and telling them what they need to do. If we aren't getting that step right, then all the other steps that we might go to, gut and all the other things, we're going to really struggle. We're going to really struggle to get any results and to feel any better. So the nerve system is the wisest place to start because it's at the root, it's at the deepest root of our body. We literally can't heal our hormones if our nerve system is out of balance. When our nerve system's out of balance, it puts us into a state of stress oftentimes, and that's what we're going to go to next. And with this state of stress, that cortisol climbs, and now it's not respecting the other roles. So one tip we can do for nerve system health is breathing. Breathing is one of my favorite tools because it's free, it's easy, and everybody can do it to some version. So if you would join me, we're going to do a little breathing exercise. And with this exercise, we're going to breathe in for 4 counts, hold our breath for 2 counts, and then breathe out for 6 counts. Now I can count with you, but don't worry too much about the counting. The main thing is I want my exhale to be longer than my inhale. So if you want to just focus on that, you can do that too. So, all right, so ideally we have our feet flat on the floor, maybe hands in a comfortable position, our head over our shoulders. We feel good where we're at. We can feel the seat that we're sitting on a little bit. So we just start kind of coming into our bodies. What do I feel underneath my feet? What do I feel underneath my seat? And can I feel my shoulders dropping? Now we're going to just take a breath in for 4 counts, and I'll count with you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 2. 1, 2, and exhale for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Great, let's do this one more time. Big breath in for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 2. 1, 2, exhale for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Excellent. Thank you for doing that with me. Thank you for giving your nerve system a little touch of nourishment and support. It's going to really appreciate that. So this is one of many breathing exercises that you can take with you. You can do at any point in time, and it will fuel your nerve system. It will shift you out of a state of fight or flight stress and into a state of rest and calming. This can be great to do before a stressful event, after a stressful event, before you eat. Anytime you find yourself in need of a little calming, deep breathing is a great way to go. Another option is seeing a chiropractor. I am a chiropractor, so obviously I'm a little bit biased towards this one, but I've been a chiropractor for 16 years, and I have seen the most amazing and remarkable stories come through my office, and we don't even have enough time to dive into them all, but I just can't tell you the effect and the impact working on the nerve system gives to people and the gift that it can bring you to your health. So working with a chiropractor that you trust, if you have one, fantastic. If you've been off schedule for a little bit, go back in. It can really be a big needle mover in your health and in your hormonal health. All right. Next, is our stress response. Stress response and nervous system are very intertwined. I almost put them together, but because there's such a focus, I separated them. Chronic stress raises cortisol, that cortisol, that alarmist friend that you have. And when cortisol is taking over and is really hyped up, we will have a very, very difficult to not impossible time balancing all of our other hormones. High cortisol leads to high blood sugars, and we're going to talk about that one in a little bit. And that's going to drive inflammation everywhere in the body. When cortisol goes up, progesterone goes, oh, no, thank you. You're a little too intense for me. And maybe progesterone really just takes a seat and starts to go down. Over time, if cortisol stays elevated, now we're also going to see estrogen, testosterone, and our thyroid twins go, you know, you're a little too much there, cortisol. I'm also going to kind of sit my job out a little bit. So when estrogen or when cortisol stays high, we can start to imbalance all of our other hormones. So you can see, hopefully, why this is a really good place to start. But when it comes to figuring out cortisol, we got to look at, well, what is chronic stress and what might be causing it? Because some people come to me and go, I'm not really stressed. And then we start talking about things, and then we start uncovering all these stressors that are starting to pile up underneath the surface that we might not realize. And the short answer to what causes chronic stress is really our modern world. We are working off an operating system, our nerve system, that is not designed for our modern world, our post-industrial world. We aren't designed for blue light from screens, chemicals in our food and water, additives in our food and water, our beauty products, on top of the physical stressors of perhaps a desk job and I don't move enough, the mental stressors of a busy schedule. As women, we tend to carry a lot of things. We tend to have a lot of plates spinning all at one time. And where are we going with this schedule? And I've got to get groceries and I've got to do this and I've got to do this. And we're often doing a lot of things. And we live in a very busy world. And that leads to often a chronic fight or flight state. So the first great place to look at after the nervous system is your stress. And an idea that you can start with today is to just journal, to get out a regular old notebook with a pen or paper. You can type if you want to, whatever works best for you, and just start spilling it out. What's stressing me? Is it my busy schedule? What are all the things that are always on my mind? This is especially helpful if you struggle with sleep. If you're getting into bed at night and you're laying there 30 minutes, an hour later, and you can't turn your head off or your mind off, then I encourage people to leave the bedroom and go somewhere else, pull out a pad of paper and just start writing. What's on your mind? What are you really thinking of? Get it out of the head and onto a piece of paper. Then the next morning, you can pick that up and you can decide what to do with it. If it's not at night, after you've been just brain dumping all this stuff, now look at your list and go, well, okay, is there any place I want to start working on my cortisol health? One great place to start is blue light. That's not often on many people's lists, but hopefully now it will be. The blue light from your phones is very destructive towards our melatonin, and it increases our cortisol. When cortisol goes up, melatonin goes down, and we can't sleep. So a great practice is an hour before bed, there are no screens. There's no phone, there's no TV, there are no iPads or tablets. Ideally, everything just gets shut down and plugged in, put somewhere else. And we are using lamps, maybe instead of overhead lights, we're just dimming the light, helping our melatonin come up. And we're not getting that blue light stress into our eyes that is then cueing our brain. Oh, it's time to be awake and it's time to be alert. Blue light creates a lot of alertness and mental fatigue. So that can be a great place to start too. So, all right. Now, we've been covering a lot of information so far. We're diving into nervous system health and stress, and now we're all stressed because we're talking about stress. So let's take a little brain break. I've been diving into some really fun new tools called neurosomatic integration. And you guys are the first ones that I get to share this with. And we're gonna dive into a couple exercises that are meant to help our stress response. These are ways that you can fuel and nourish your nerve system and your stress response that we just covered. So in a comfy place where you're at, we're gonna start our exercise off with a range of motion check. This is gonna give you feedback of, is this exercise helping me? Is it getting me out of my stress state or not? There's a huge library of exercises that we cover, but we're gonna go through 2 today. So one common range of motion you can use is a shoulder range of motion. So you can put your shoulder up, and then you can bring it down and you can just see how far does my shoulder rotate. If you want to, you can stand and you can touch your toes. You can move your neck side to side and you can watch yourself in the video of how far does my neck go, or you can turn it. Whatever range of motion you want to use that works for you. Just take a moment, please, to check that and kind of gauge where you're at. All right, so now that you know where's my tension, where can I move, where can I not move, we're gonna dive into our first exercise. We're gonna be coming, and I'm gonna move my hair here. We're gonna use your neck muscles. So I'm gonna use my right hand, and I'm gonna come along my collarbone right here. And with my collarbone, so here's the middle, I'm gonna come over a little bit, a couple inches right underneath it. And I'm gonna push upwards really gently. Don't hurt yourself, just really gently. And I'm gonna hold my hand there. And then on the same side, so I have my right hand, on the same side, my right, this muscle is called an SCM. I'm gonna turn my head so it's more prominent. And it's this muscle that goes diagonal right here. What we're gonna do, you can turn your head if you need to, is we're gonna take your fingers and we're gonna tap on it. So tap up and down. Gently, not too hard, but we do want to create some stimulation. So tapping, tapping, tapping. We're just going to tap about 20 seconds. Tapping up and down. Try to keep your breathing calm. You can do a short inhale, a long exhale. Breathing, breathing. This exercise is great for stimulating what we call the spinal accessory nerve, and it can help us drop our shoulders. When we're stressed, we're here. When we're relaxed, we're here. All right, we can stop tapping. We're gonna take a breath in and a long breath out. You might already notice your shoulders dropping, but I want you to recheck your range of motion. So if you did a shoulder range of motion, I want you to recheck it. I can feel I gained a lot of shoulder range of motion with mine. That's a really good tool that I use very, very often. You can check whatever range of motion. My neck range of motion is much better. When we are in a less stressed state, we call it a parasympathetic state. When we shift out of that fight or flight, our range of motion improves. So if you are someone who's chronically tight, this can be a sign of chronic stress activation. All right, our next tool, and we're gonna do one more, and this one is we're gonna use the tongue, and this one is a vagus nerve exercise. We're gonna use what we call the hypoglossal nerve and the vagus nerve, if you've heard of that one. And this one is great to help us get into a calmer state. I use this a lot before I eat because it helps to stimulate digestion too. So we're going to take our tongue and I want you to push it against your cheek on each side 10 times on each side. So it'll be 1, 2, 3. So go ahead and do that. Excellent. I noticed I'm starting to salivate already. This is your body kicking into that rest and digest mode. We're getting out of a stressed state and into a calm state. When our body's in that calmer state, we're going to start to produce more saliva in our mouth. This is the perfect place to be before we're going to eat a meal, and that's going to help digestion. We're going to do a few more of those types of things in our gut webinar in a few weeks. But hopefully these tools have helped you. You can recheck your range of motion with each one of these, with that one, and did it improve? If it improved, then this is a great exercise for you to do at any point in time. Take it with you. You can do it throughout the day, when you're stressed, before something, before a meal. But take these exercises off with you. If your range of motion did not improve, then these particular exercises aren't shifting you out of that fight or flight state. They're not decreasing your stress response. So come back to more of our webinars. I'm going to share some new exercises with each one, and hopefully you can find one that fits for you. So, all right. Let's get back into the brainy stuff. Our next, as we're working up our triangle, we had nerve system, stress response. Now we're going to deficiencies, nutrient deficiencies, and blood sugar balance. So nutrient deficiencies like magnesium, zinc, iodine, selenium, other essential nutrients are crucial for hormone production. If I'm not eating enough zinc, iodine, and selenium, my thyroid literally doesn't have the building blocks it needs to make thyroid hormones. And now I have a low thyroid function state. I'm in a hypothyroid state without being truly diagnosed hypothyroid, if that makes sense. So it's not functioning well. So we need to make sure that we have enough nutrients in our diet. And then in a second, we're going to go to gut health to make sure we're absorbing what we're eating. If we are getting the nutrients we need, now what type of food are we eating? Blood sugar balance is really crucial also to hormone balance. When your diet is high in refined carbohydrates, pastas, breads, chips, crackers, sugary foods, your blood sugar skyrockets up and it becomes this roller coaster of highs and lows and all sorts of twisty turns. And that imbalance, that dysregulation is going to create inflammation everywhere, all over the body. It will impact your liver, your gut, your heart, your bones. It can create stiffness. That inflammation is going to go everywhere. And so a really great place to start is, am I eating different colors of vegetables, eating the rainbow of vegetables, if you've heard that, that brings our nutrients in, and cutting out some refined carbohydrates and sugars and replacing them with balanced meals of protein, fiber, and fat. If you can look at your plate, and your plate is made of protein, healthy fiber, and fats, that's a great meal for you. And this is especially helpful for breakfast. The breakfast is our first meal of the day. And if we can stabilize our blood sugars with a healthy blood sugar meal, that's a really good start to your day. It helps to nourish your stress response. It helps to nourish your hormones, and you're going to notice you have a lot more energy. In our household, we don't eat a lot of what I would consider breakfast foods because many of those are going to be cereal and waffles and pancakes. So they're all high in carbs and sugar. So this morning, my daughter literally had some hamburger for breakfast.
What's wrong?
What?
What's wrong?
Girl gave me the ear and I just told him don't get too big.
Mm,
He gave me a puppy up, you know.
Like we're having a couple technical difficulties. I'm sure that she'll pop back on here in just a moment.
Hi, I'm back. I am so sorry. My computer just completely died. So,
Oh,
all right, let's see. Let's make sure it says I'm plugged in. All right, let's continue. And let me see if I need to share my screen again. There we go. All right. Thank you for staying on the call and hanging in there with me. All right, so breakfast foods, we're gonna be hitting the fiber, protein, and healthy fats. Some foundational supplements that I often recommend are a good multivitamin, an omega-3 fish oil, a magnesium, and a vitamin D. Those are the supplements that often fill in the holes of our diet and any deficiencies we might get that we have a hard time eating or getting in from our food. All right, the next one is our gut health. We're climbing up that pyramid, and gut health plays a crucial role in hormone balance. And a compromised gut can trigger inflammation that affects all of our hormones, including some of our brain neurotransmitters, such as serotonin. Serotonin is our natural mood booster. It can help with memory and help with learning, and almost all of it's made in our gut and then sent up to our brain. So if our gut's inflamed and we're not making enough serotonin because of that, we're going to have a hard time feeling motivated and having good memory and being able to learn things. So something we're going to talk about in our gut webinar in a few weeks is something called our estrobolome. We actually have bacteria in our gut that influence our estrogen levels. And these bacteria have a very important job of breaking our estrogen down and getting it out of the body so it doesn't go too high. And with those bacteria, we need them for healthy hormone levels. And if we don't have enough because the gut's inflamed or out of balance, now our estrogen levels can get recycled into the body and they can grow too high into something that we call estrogen dominance. One of the characteristic signs of estrogen dominance is really heavy blood flow during our periods. So some root causes that we can dive into would be that imbalance of good and bad bacteria in the gut, something called leaky gut, where your gut literally, the lining has little holes in it. So now things are leaking out into the bloodstream and going all over the body. Food sensitivities, gluten, corn, dairy are very common ones that I see in my practice. Stress. Stress, that cortisol response is affecting everything, literally everything. Parasites and blood sugar dysregulation. The inflammation from high blood sugars really, really hits the gut hard. So some tips you can take home today would be adding fermented foods, sauerkraut, kimchi, kombucha, kefir, if you can do dairy, or there's water kefir or coconut water kefir. If you can't do fermented foods, a high quality probiotic can be really helpful to get that good bacteria in there to just nourish the gut and reduce inflammation. Now, probiotics love food. And so if you're taking a supplement, we want to make sure we're getting our fiber in. Our asparagus is great. Leeks, onions are all prebiotics that the probiotics love to eat. And so we want to make sure that with the fermented foods or with the probiotic supplement that we're giving them their food source. All right, liver health. We've got 2 more left. So hang in there with me. The liver processes and excretes hormones and helps detoxify the body. So it has a really important job to do, especially around estrogen. But the liver produces cholesterol, and cholesterol makes our hormones. If our cholesterol is too low, we literally won't have enough building blocks to make our hormones. So it plays a major role in a couple different ways. Another thing about the liver is inside the liver, tucked kind of in there, is the gallbladder. And the gallbladder stores what's called bile. The liver makes bile and it kind of shuttles it down, and the gallbladder stores it in this little pouch. And then the bile comes out anytime you eat any food that has a little bit of fat in it. And that bile breaks down the fat into smaller pieces that helps you absorb your fat-soluble vitamins like your vitamin A, your vitamin E, and then it also makes up a large part of your stool. It also will help us get rid of excess estrogen that those bacteria are getting rid of, that our liver is helping get rid of. And so the bile plays a really big role along with the liver, because the liver made it and the gallbladder stores it, in helping balance our hormones. It also leads to, if our bile gets thick and sludgy, it can lead to constipation and problems with that too. So some key causes of maybe low functioning liver health are going to be alcohol, sugar intake. That's usually the most surprising for people, but that refined high sugar diet, environmental toxins that might be in our water, in our air, our lotion. For women, it's often beauty supplies and beauty products. What we're putting on our face are like makeup and things like that goes into the skin, and whatever goes into the skin goes into the gut. And another one is processed foods. If you look at the label of processed foods, it contains lots of different ingredients that aren't actually food. If you might have heard recently, red dye number 3 is going to be outlawed in the United States, and because it's linked to cancer. But there are many other dyes out there that are equally bad for us, and we just haven't gotten to eliminating them yet. So those all have a huge impact on our liver health, and looking and reading ingredient labels and trying to pull those out is a really great step towards protecting your liver health. Another easy step is a glass of, in the morning, a glass of warm water with lemon. Our liver loves a little bit of lemon, and this is a really gentle, easy way to support liver detoxification and increase hydration. So some other foods would be your bitter foods, your bitter melon, your bitter greens like arugula, dandelion greens. Anything bitter tasting is going to be great for liver health and kind of detoxifying. All right, so if you are still with me, if I haven't bored you to death yet, please type yes in the chat. It's a little, when I'm not in person, it's a little harder to tell, but if you could just let me know you're still here. Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, I'm glad no one's sleeping yet. Our last root cause at the very top of our pyramid are called stealth infections. Stealth infections are things like Lyme, Epstein-Barr, like mono, you might have heard of, and now COVID is in this category. These are kind of above and beyond the normal cold, and they are the bigger, maybe we call it, viruses that can create systemic inflammation all over the body, and they can become chronic. Our immune system, for some people, doesn't fully get rid of it, especially Lyme and Epstein-Barr. And so with these, we often discover these through a health history, but then there are lab tests that can help us identify this too. For some, this is rare, but yet sometimes it's more common than we think, especially with Lyme in this state. We're seeing more and more of it. This morning, I came across an article that is estimating 50%, I don't know how they know this, but 50% of the ticks are now going to be carrying Lyme disease. Somehow they figured this out. So I think we're going to see more and more of it. But these chronic viruses create this chronic inflammatory response to the immune system that is really hard to dampen and heal from. So what do we do about this one? And it comes down to prioritizing rest. Avoid overscheduling, especially when you're feeling off, and nurturing that immune system, reducing that inflammation. So any immune supporting tools that you might already be using are really helpful to insert here. The deep breathing tool was actually a really great one. Vitamin D is my favorite immune boosting supplement. It is extremely powerful. There's lots of data and research on it and how effective it is, especially living in our northern climate where we're just not getting enough from the sun at this point. So, all right. We made it through our pyramid. So we have our 6 different foundations that we're looking for. And if you're looking again for where do I even start, this is where that we can go to, starting at the bottom and working your way up. And hopefully by now you've gotten some tips for each one of these levels. All right, so let's transition, and I just want to share a story with you. This is a story from Sarah, and Sarah was someone that I worked with. She was a mom of a larger family. She was always carrying a lot on her shoulders and doing a lot. She homeschooled, she just always had a lot on her plate. And when I saw her, she had been feeling off. She hadn't been feeling like herself for at least a year. And she ended up getting diagnosed with anxiety and was sent with a medication. And for her, it just didn't feel right. That didn't feel like what was her struggle. And all this time, her symptoms were getting worse. Her fatigue, her brain fog, she was getting short. Her patience was very short. She was getting angry with her kids, very moody. And it got really bad for her. And that's when we started working together. And we did some lab work. We dove into a very deep dive into her health history. And we discovered some really good places to start for her. And we started with her nervous system and with her stress response first and foremost, because she was a mom carrying too many things on her plate. And through our work together, she had a radical transformation. We ended up having to work with our doctor to get off her medication because some of her symptoms were actually from her medication of anxiety that unfortunately she did not have. And then we continued to work together until she was in a really good place. So I share this story hoping that if someone here today is feeling like Sarah, that it can give you hope. That if you are fed up with feeling terrible and you are tired of being dismissed, you're tired of being told by your doctor, oh, it's anxiety, or your labs look fine, then there is a solution that is out there for you. So your next steps, if this is you, our next steps can be first, encouraging you. I offer a free 30-minute health solutions call. And with this call, we hop on a Zoom or a phone call, and we just dive into what your unique needs and your goals might be. This is not a time where we dive deep into your health history, but it's a time where we just chat about what are you struggling with and what do you envision? What would you like your health to look like versus where you're at now? And then, are we a good fit to work together? Do we mesh well together? Is this something that you're interested in? And then we decide where we go from there. If you're not ready for that step, then hopefully what I want to encourage you to do is pick 2 things from today. 2 tips. It could be the breathing exercise, the water with lemon. Write down 2 tips and take action on them right away, starting with the first one. So that way you can check that box and you can start making those small steps that really, really lead to some big progress over time. And remember, the key is to start at the bottom of the pyramid and work your way up. All right, so I want to open the floor. We've covered a lot of information, so I would love to know, what questions do you have? Is there anything I can clarify for you? I would love to hear from you guys. Chat. All right. All right, so a question. Can you speak to how birth control messes with hormones and how long women should be on them? This is a really good question. So birth control, it's artificial hormones. And when you are on birth control, if you're on like a pill form, when you get to those pills that are supposed to be that you take during your period that induce a bleed time, that is not a true menstrual period. It's a pill bleed, not a true menstrual period. And so with your hormones, it is going to artificially throw your hormones off the entire time that you're on them. So when you come off of them, your brain has started to disconnect from your body and its own natural rhythms. Those text messages are no longer going through because you've had artificial text messages put into the body. So your body's going to have a really hard time when you come off of them going, oh, okay, I'll take over. Estrogen, do this. Progesterone, do that. There's a chance, and it's highly likely that some people are going to find that my hormones are off balance because they just no longer know what to do. There are the realities of with the higher estrogen, with those, that it can lead to a higher risk of stroke and other vascular issues with women. There's some really interesting research that came out a few months ago, and I am blanking on diving in and bringing that up, but it just showed more of the impact that birth control has on a female body, how it can throw it off, and it was really fascinating. So if you would like more of that, please reach out to me personally, and I'd love to share that with you. How long should you be on them? If we are talking about for hormonal balance, as short as possible. Because unfortunately, they're not balancing your hormones. They're actually throwing your hormones off. So if we want to balance hormones, if we want to feel great, we want to avoid the artificial hormones as long as possible. Now, with birth control, sometimes I get women go, but what about hormone replacement therapy? And we're going to bring that topic up in the perimenopause. So if you're someone that's wondering about that option, there can be a lot of pros to that and a few cons. So we'll talk about that in a few weeks. So any other questions anybody has? I can't possibly have answered all of them. But, all right. You guys are pretty quiet, so we'll keep moving on. From here, I just want to thank you for joining me today and spending your time with me. I know how busy life is, and the fact that you took time out of your day to show up and be here speaks volumes for your health and your journey. So I encourage you to remember that your body is always speaking with you. It's communicating with you. It's not broken. It's not betraying you. It's just asking for support. And the good news is that consistent small steps really create meaningful change. So please take action from something today, whether it is scheduling that 30-minute call. Alicia put the link into the chat feature for you. Whether it is checking in with a chiropractor or taking one of the habits and putting it into your daily routine. Please take action on something because those small steps really make a difference. You deserve to feel vibrant and energized and at home in your own body. And I am really honored that I can be here to play a role in helping you to get there. So thank you again for being here. We will be back next week, same time, same place. And we're going to be covering sleep. So whether you struggle with sleep, whether sleep is great, but you want to learn more about it, I would love to see you next week. So thank you so much. Take care and be well.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good weekend.